Okay, so what I basically want to do is just give an introductory overview of drones and drones in agriculture. And the reason that that came about, that I became involved with this, was basically feedback from our undergraduates about a need for focus on precision agriculture in our very traditional agriculture technology management courses. And so I was able to get involved with some very involved organizations such as the Walkway Foundation here in Arizona. And so they've been very good about helping mentor our program and developing an instructional program to teach students about drones and drone applications in agriculture. So if we start looking about what are drones, these are considered unmanned aircraft systems. So these are aircraft that obviously do not have an individual who is sitting in them as a pilot. We typically associate drones with military applications, but they also became very popular with hobbyists. So we would have fixed wing aircraft that model aircraft owners would use and test and fly out at model aircraft parks. And then we started seeing more of what we call these quadcopters, or these helicopters with multi-rotors. And so the hobbyists really were really using them quite a bit. And then the industry started picking up. There are a lot of multiple uses for them, and they're being used in quite a bit of different areas. There's basically a controller that somebody handles. There's an application and the actual drone itself. So how are they used today? Well, in the commercial sector, they're used in all types of areas. The construction industry uses them quite a bit to go up and down, look at buildings, interiors and exterior shots of buildings. The energy sector, using them especially in the solar industry to go up and map areas out, looking on rooftops, which is obviously a lot safer than putting somebody physically up on the roof of a building. We can actually look at large fields of solar arrays or solar farms and look where things are laid out. In the environmental sector, obviously, to monitor growth of trees and what's happening in the environment. Public safety, search and rescue efforts. I was looking at a study the other day where somebody was using their drones in doing control burns in land measures. So they're able to actually use infrared cameras that are inserted on the drone, so they could actually see through the smoke and see where the fire physically was moving. So they're using it as really as a management tool. Obviously, we see it quite a bit in the real estate industry now to promote houses and property, and agriculture. That's probably one its biggest use, and what we're actually focusing on today. And I had a former student who, living over in the eastern part of Arizona in the area of Bonita, and they grow beans and they use center pivot irrigation systems, and they actually have a very large number of these irrigation systems. And as he was introducing me to them and showing me how they work, and I asked him, I said, well, how do you manage it? I mean, how do you physically walk around or drive around a 120 acre pivot? He says no, and he pulled out a drone and showed me. He says, I sit here in the truck, we put the drone up in the air, and I'm able to actually see over the top of our property and the irrigation system, and I can see where the water is going and where it's not. I can see where we're getting flooding issues and where the plants are not doing well. So he says it's becoming a very important management tool for them, and this is where it's going in agriculture. We can map fields for elevation differences. There's some mapping applications that are out there. You can download them and get involved on a subscription service. And what happens is your drone is connected to it, flies in GPS mode. So you can actually tell where you want the drone to fly it, initiate it. The drone goes up in the air. You can follow its path on the phone, and it makes its multiple courses across the property, takes pictures or video depending upon what you're looking for, and then when it reaches the end of its course, it'll return back to where it started. Then you can pull out the small SD card that you insert inside the drone and download the pictures, and then they're actually stitched together on the application program. So things we can look at is plant health. We can actually, using other types of applications, individual plant population counts. So a farmer, for example, who is planting a seed crop such as cotton and plants so many seed to the acre, you can actually do an individual plant count to see how many plants are actually coming up. You can scout boundary lines and fence lines, which would be really useful for people in the livestock area. I don't know if this app will, we can do a lot of different sprays. This particular drone here is a large drone, has 6 rotors on it, and actually has a tank on it so it can actually spray a crop. So what typically would be done with tractors and self-propelled sprayers, we can now do it with a drone and do it above the ground, so we don't actually have to go into the field and damage anything to the crop. Actually, for getting started, there's actually 2 directions in which the drone industry is at right now. There's the recreational users. Anybody who has a drone needs to consider registering it with the Federal Aviation Administration. If the takeoff weight of the actual drone is more than 0.55 pounds and less than 55 pounds, it is classified as a small unmanned aircraft. And there's a link to actually go in and register your drone. It's www.dronezone.faa.gov, and it has a $5 fee. So it's real simple to do. And again, if you're using the drone and flying it, if it gets lost, obviously you can recover it here. The other side is the commercial user, and this is where we're seeing a lot of growth in this area. This is where somebody who might be receiving any type of compensation for work with their drone is considered a commercial user. They are then subjected to FAA 107 licensure, and they have to complete an online knowledge exam. Pass that exam. It's 60 questions, multiple choice. You have to pass with a 70% to actually get the certification. Once you have that certification, that gives you the ability then to be a commercial user and to be compensated for your work. So somebody, again, in the realty industry, somebody who's taking pictures for movies, videos, things like that, they fall under the FAA 107. There's online training materials and modules. There are organizations that will help provide training. You can find free materials, or you can pay $120, $130 for a course that would help you to actually apply for the online exam. It's pretty extensive. There's quite a bit of work on safety and where you can actually fly drones. Unfortunately, ignorance of the law doesn't help you out. And as I started looking into flying drones and investigating getting my FAA licensure, I was looking at just where I could actually fly it here near the University of Arizona. And I know where our farm is located, we are a certain distance from the Tucson airport, but we would still be in a certain class airspace. And if you're going to fly in class C, B airspace, which is within 5 miles of an airport, you under regulations must apply for a waiver to be able to operate in that airspace. And that's so there's no issues, or we reduce the issues or incidents of interference with manned aircraft traffic. The drones are being used during the pandemic. I wanted to see, I'm not sure if I'll be able to bring this up. I'll try to show it. This is a link. Let's see if I can share this link here. Okay, this
out of a science fiction movie, man. This is fabulous.
Did this come up, Trent?
Yeah, we're pretty proud of it. It's been a heck of a project.
Yes,
the
it's
city
working.
of Travis Ashby,
Don Wakamatsu
these guys have done a tremendous job to allow us to come in and try to help build consumer confidence to come back and get fans in the stands. That's what this game's about, and whatever we can do to facilitate that. And that's kind of how this came about. The Walkway Foundation, started this about a year ago when COVID started hitting, and started thinking about our new stadium, started thinking a little bit, and then this came about, and just a great opportunity for us to try to get back and get fans in the stands.
Hey, Walt, good to see you, man. Another spring training.
How you doing?
All right, buddy. Good to see you. So
good to see you.
Let's stay focused on this real quick, and then we'll talk some baseball. But I want to ask you, how long, so they sanitize the ballpark. How long is that supposed to last? Is it 1 day? Is it a week? What is it?
No, we've done several tests, and we're clear out to 30 to 60, even 90 days on some applications.
Wow.
Just depends on how high traffic it is.
I mean, the fact that you guys can save so much time and manpower by having a drone do the flyover like a crop duster, not like the crop dusting we saw Russo do earlier today, but an actual crop dusting airplane. Let's talk a little baseball here.
Okay, so I'm going to jump us out of there. But again, this is a way that now that an organization such as the Walkway Foundation, and their focus is on small farmers and the integration of this technology into small farming. And Don has been, again, very supportive of what we're doing here at the University of Arizona. They have a website, the Walkway Foundation, and what they call Farmitude. And I'm going to try to show you another link for the precision ag and the educational programs that they are conducting right now. If you have a drone, you need to know where you're flying. And so there are some free apps that you could download to put on your phone. One is called Before You Fly. This is an example on the left, and another one's called...
Ed, we're still seeing the baseball.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Let me get us back to, here we go. How's that?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, there you go. So there's a couple of different apps. These are free, and these are helpful for somebody who's going to fly a drone. Again, where are you permitted to fly? So this one on the left is actually showing me, and this is a screenshot from my phone. Here we are, right near River Road or the university farm. This is River Road right here. This yellow area is a caution area. So if I'm in this little dot here would indicate where I would be located. So if I was actually in this yellow area, I'm in a cautionary area. I can fly my zone legally up to 400 feet above ground level. And then above that, then I'm in violation FAA. But this would tell me here that I'm clear for takeoff. There's no active advisories. But that I have to be aware, that, I'm in so far away from Arizona Stadium. And so that would be a no-fly zone for a drone. We do have hospitals in the area, and they do have heliports. So again, it would be up to the drone operator to be aware of aircraft in the facility. And if you are a commercial operator, then there is the recommendation that you have what we call a visual observer. So there would be somebody who would be operating the controls of the drone, and then there would be a visual observer. And their job is to keep a visual line of sight on that drone. And so legally, we can't operate a drone outside of a 3-mile status mile limit from where we're actually operating it. So 3 miles is quite a distance, but you're supposed to have an eye on the drone and be able to watch it where it's going. And then again, if there are any other manned aircraft in the area, they have complete priority over you. That means you've got to do what you have to avoid any type of collision. And that could mean if you have to go above 400 feet to avoid it, that's possible. If there is a near incursion, then you're responsible for actually reporting it to the FAA. Are you actually operating near an airfield, or are you near a no-fly zone? This other app,
we're still on the app.
Okay. Yeah, no, I haven't moved yet. This is another one called Drone Buddy, and it gives you locations, times, and visibility. Again, the weather can be a real issue for us if we're flying a drone. Let's see. Now it's not going. There we go. Okay, so this is an area I want to show you. This is over in the Marana area, and we were actually, a colleague and we were flying for a farmer who has property here just below West Abra Valley Road, but up on the north east side is the Marana Regional Airport. And so you see, if you can see this blue X coming down through the screen, this is actually, the blue X is in line with the where the traffic would come in. So these are airport runways where this orange signal is up on the right, and I'm moving my cursor here from the north to the southeast, and now from the northeast to the southwest. So there was a portion of this property, and it was actually down here where the cursor was, that we were trying to map for this individual. And here I've highlighted it here in the circle. And we got down into this area, we were able to actually fly the drone. And when we moved over here, the drone was actually operating and it would freeze and stop. And we were trying to figure out why we couldn't get it to move through its path. And we look at the monitor and it come up with the NFZ, and that means it's a no-fly zone. So this was actually, we went into the drone flying app, and it showed that there was no air control areas there, that we actually, it was green for us, but the actual, we were using a DJI drone, and in the DJI app, they have a note when it counters a no-fly zone, it won't let the drone actually fly in there, even if you're trying to do it manually. So we learned that we actually had to go into the DJI app and actually had to locate and do what they call an unlock. So here I had to put in the information about my drone, the serial number, had to go into that area and authorize an unlock, and I would request it a certain time and date. It would actually unlock my drone for 3 days, and I'd have to, of course, hit the submit button, and it would actually let me fly the drone into that area and do the actual recording or photography. So this is something, again, a drone operator would have to learn about if they were going to be, doing any mapping of fields for a producer. When you're actually flying, the drone is connected to the controller. Here we have this is a DJI Phantom 4 drone, has the battery in it, and we have a controller here. There would actually be a cell phone that would have the application on it, and that's what you'll be looking at, or you could have an iPad mini or something on here. The controllers here, again, communicate with the drone and with the cord that's coming off the phone that would actually be sitting here on this pad. When we're mapping, we would open up a drone deploy app on our smartphone. We would select a location, and then we'd outline the area to map. This is what I would be looking at on the actual drone app itself. So we have some different projects we started. I'm going to see if I can actually see if we can start something here. Let me go back into the share here. Let's see if it's going to do this. Okay. Trent, are you looking at the drone deploy app right now?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just show a quick project here. I'm going to put in the Campus Ag Center. Okay, so this would show us, here's the Campus Ag Center. And I want to go over to a part of the property. I'm going to go ahead and create a project here. And I'm going to call it the Northwest Campus Ag Center. So I'm able to run this app either from my laptop or my phone. Now this is the northwest corner of the Campus Ag Center, bordering East Limberlost and Mountain Avenue. I would come over here and I would say I'm going to do a map or a model of the area. So what it does, it actually brings out and gives me a grid to work with. I'm going to back out a little bit so I can define my area here. And so I'm going to take this grid and move it over here to this part of the property. Okay. So, one of the concerns of the drones and people around drones is they're afraid that, are you actually violating someone's privacy? And I know at the University of Arizona, if we're trying to fly drones, we have to go through risk management on the campus. And that's their number one concern, keeping people from operating drones on campus. And are they, flying them around dormitories, things like that. So, we want to be aware that where we're flying it and we're not going to cause any issues. So this green grid is actually where my drone would be flying. Right now on this map plan up here, it tells me that it would take 10 minutes to actually fly the drone. This is an 8-acre area. It would take 193 images, and it would actually use up one battery. I would actually try to adjust the height of my flight, my altitude. So here I'll say I'm going to bring it down maybe to 120 feet. Okay, so it actually means the drone's going to be flying a few more passes. I can put it on enhanced 3D option. I'm going to turn that off so it actually require less. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a simulation for you. So this is what the operator would look for on the drone. I'm going to click on the simulation down below here. And so we're now in simulation mode. The blue dot here in the middle would be if my drone was starting there, I would actually probably start it out here on the side. But now I'd go over here to hit my pre-flight checklist. And the drone would go through permissions. In other words, is it seeing any areas there where I can't fly? Let me see if I can bring that back. And the drone itself, is it connected to the number of GPS satellites to make these passes? Is the camera operating? Is the controller functioning? And is the flight plan looks like it's solid? So once you get all these checks, then you come over here back to the bottom right where you see start flight, and then you'd actually push on the button. I'm looking at the map plan up here on the right. It tells me this would actually take 16 minutes to actually fly. So I'm just going to click on the start flight. The drone would automatically elevate from the ground, go up to that height. I'd set it for about 120. It looks like it would be going at altitude almost 120 feet, and it would actually begin its course. So right here, it tells me the drone is actually traveling at a speed of about 7 miles per hour. Legally, you can fly a drone up to 100 miles per hour. Now, why somebody would actually do that, I don't know, but that's where you can actually fly it. This is making its pass. It'll be flying up along that route, taking pictures. It'll move over 120 feet, and it's going to make this pass back. So it would complete this entire picture. You know, it's kind of like if you were mowing a lawn, for example, with a lawnmower. You're going up, you're making a pass, and you're moving in a serpentine effect. Down on the lower left corner of the screen, you see it's black right now, but if this drone is actually flying, I would be able to see what the drone is actually seeing. So it would be showing the shots from the ground, and then the drone would actually make its turn, and it would rotate in the air and follow it out. So again, this is just an actual simulation. I'm not recording any information, but it shows you what the drone would actually be doing. The figures that are changing there would give me the distance where the drone is from where I would be operating it. So if I was standing here in the middle of the field where we see this little white dot or white blue dot with a house, that's be the start position, and the drone is actually flying. And then on the right, it tells me it's about 1:38 into its actual plan of 16 minutes. So I'm not going to run through the whole thing for you, but this is what you would be actually looking for. Now, if there was an issue with the drone, I could come up here to the left, push the red button, and it would send it home immediately. Drones, typically the batteries only last about 15 minutes to 20 minutes, depending upon wind conditions, the temperature outside, and how high you're flying. And in some cases, I may be mapping a field. It'll tell me I may need 2 batteries, or maybe my battery is not full when I went out and started flying it. And what'll happen is the program will indicate that in the app. It'll say it's a low battery. When it gets about 20 to 25% battery state of charge, it'll actually start flying and beeping. And then the drone will actually bring itself back. It'll go back and land automatically and wait for the person operating it to actually go out there and change the battery and then put it back. So I just hit the red button right now, so it would actually bring it back, and it would actually land. Then it would tell me how many captured images I would actually make. I could continue the flight, or I could reset. So this is just basically of what that looks like. I'm going to bring it back. Let's go back to looking here. Okay, hopefully now we're back on my PowerPoint.
Yes.
Okay, great. Let's see if it's going to catch up with me. Here we go. Okay, so again, here's what we were looking at. This would be an eye view, and again, this is a Google view. This was not my actual pictures I would take. This is what the Google map would look like, and then I could look at things like plant health and elevation. So we actually did shoot this field. Okay, so this is actually what what the drone would be looking at. One of the things I would look at here over on the right side is airspace and LANCE, and I would click on it to see if I was actually in Class C airspace. And actually Roger Road, which is the border of the south end of this photograph, is actually the edge of Class C airspace. So I'm like 1 block away. I'm now in a different class airspace. So technically I wouldn't need to apply for a waiver, but if I'm in Class C airspace, I may have to, depending upon what I'm flying over. Okay. So this is the number of pictures. Each one of these blue dots would represent a number of pictures that the image were taken by the drone. And on this particular day, it took 162 images. They were to be saved on my little SD card. And then when I get done, I'd bring the SD card in here to my laptop and upload it. Okay, so now I'm going to take a look at the elevation. This tells me the elevation of the field. The blue tells me it's a lower elevation, the greens and red a higher elevation. So if I was looking at doing irrigation, this would tell me where my the lowest end of my field is going to be. And so we could use this to help a farmer look at and see where the water's running or where there's some issues. So I would click on the elevation tag over here in the right, and it would tell me where the differences in elevation are. This is the plant health. So anything that's green obviously is a healthier plant. Anything that's red or orange or yellow, there are some issues. Now this is a part of our farm that we're not growing any crops. It's an older part. Sometimes they would put cattle on it, but they would obviously be feeding them supplementally. The other fields nearby is where they would normally have animals grazing. There are normally sheep grazing in this field just to the south. There's cattle grazing in the fields over on the east side of the right from here. But again, what the light colors here tell us on a field, are there some issues here? And this would be something that a farmer then would have to go and investigate. Why are my crops not doing well here? Again, we want to see green and not the red or orange colors. So drone operation safety tips are very important. Again, registering your drone is probably one of the first things you should do, even if it's a drone you're using as a hobby. Again, you're going to fly your drone at or below 400 feet. When we're flying, we'll fly at about 300 feet. If I'm mapping fields, 200 feet. Again, if I'm in that vicinity, Marana, where I may be near an airport, if I'm actually taking pictures of a property, then I'm going to probably be about 75 feet because I'm trying to get detail. And then I'll also use a 3D mapping option. So it'll actually photograph sides of the building itself. Want to make sure, again, you're keeping your drone within your line of sight, especially if you're flying, obviously, manually. When we're mapping, we're using a GPS mode, and you have a tendency to become relaxed because you just let the drone fly on its own. However, if the drone loses its signal, it could take off, and then you have a runaway. If you have a drone that takes off and it crashes, if it does more than $500 damage, and not just to the drone, but to whatever it hits, then you must report that within 10 days to the FAA. And then it goes to the National Transportation Safety Board. If you have an individual that is injured because of a drone and they require 48 hours of hospitalization, again, that's required by the FAA to be reported within 10 days. You must always be aware of your airspace restrictions. That's up to the person who's operating it. Again, respecting the privacy of the people around you where you're flying. You never want to fly into any other aircraft, especially, again, airports. You have to be aware of your area. You never want to fly over groups of people, public events, or stadiums full of people. We've seen people do this, and they're most likely ignorant of the law, thinking that, well, they can do that or they're not going to get in trouble. If somebody asks to fly a drone, let's say over a concert, and they want to drop things from the drone, if it poses as a hazardous, like golf balls or something like that, obviously they're going to be discouraged from doing that. They're going to be in violation. There is a waiver, though, right now that the FAA is addressing for people to fly over groups of people, but typically the only people you can fly over are those who are associated with the operation of the drone. Flying at night also is another issue. You can actually fly within 30 minutes of twilight, either in the morning or in the evening. And if you are flying, you need to have anti-collision lights on your drone. Most drones will come with red and green flashing lights on the bottom, but you must have anti-collision lights if you're going to be flying in that twilight hours. Now, as of, again, March 2021, you can actually apply for a waiver to actually fly at night. You can't fly in national parks, for example. There are restrictions. There's regulations about flying in areas of habitat where there are wildlife. You know, so you can actually be fined, and those fines can be pretty stiff if you are caught doing so. Flying near emergencies such as fires or hurricane recovery efforts. That was an issue out here in Tucson over this last summer when we had fires up in the Catalinas, where you had aircraft coming in to try to suppress the fires, and they were having to make adjustments because there were people flying drones and they were just trying to get pictures and video, and they were in the way. So, you know, somebody who is caught like that, again, they can be fined heavily. If they're an operator, they can lose their ability to fly for up to a year, and you know, they can face criminal charges. Flying under the influence of drugs or alcohol obviously is prohibited, and again, the regulations are that anybody who's you know, must have 8 hours from the time that they've consumed any alcohol before they can actually fly a drone. You know, it's very similar just being an aircraft pilot. I mentioned the Walkway Foundation. They have a component here about precision agriculture. Here we're flying a drone over a field in Marana. We're demonstrating to this farmer here. We're just flying with water, but we can see that they're flying at a few feet above the crop itself. You can actually use the drone to apply fertilizer, herbicides, whatever they need to put on there. Again, you can do this without actually pulling a vehicle in the field and actually damaging any of the crop. And then we were showing what was being done up in the Phoenix area to actually spray disinfectant. And they were actually doing this on high school football stadiums and, of course, the baseball stadiums where they were doing spring training. So I'm going to summarize this here. Operating of drones really is a growing industry. There's big demand for drone pilots. There are different websites where you can find companies like Bayer, Monsanto, even construction companies that are looking for drone pilots. And if you have your own drone and are able to operate it, you know, you can actually make good money mapping fields for ag producers and maybe working with groups and co-ops. You know, I could see some big use of this, especially with the presentation that Alexandria made to scout out where locations of herds for horses might be. You know, if there's somebody saying, hey, we've spotted some here doing a count, you know, drones could be used for that, obviously with the right permission. Again, we looked into practical uses for agriculture. Again, a small, maybe even a small vineyard that wouldn't have enough capital to have large equipment, but they could certainly have a drone come in there and fly it and scout it. And then having the right sensors on it, you could look at different color things for plants and health. It's a reasonable investment. Some of these drones, these larger ones here, like this big large one here that has the ability to spray, that was probably in the $10,000 to $15,000 range. The smaller drones are going to be $1,500 to $2,000. And then the training, and then, you know, the mapping software. The software we're using runs about $1,200 just for a year. And we have a large number of maps and then stitching it together. So somebody who's going to provide this service to farmers or ranchers, you know, obviously there's going to be a cost associated with it. There's operator training, and again, being comfortable with the system and being able to operate the drone. Having knowledge, safe use and operation of the aircraft, you know, where you can fly it around people and around vehicles and around livestock, not disturbing them. So, you know, there's some training that's involved. I know there's talked to 4-H groups that would love to learn about using drones. And so we're hoping to work with some groups to be able to provide more education, sharing the data with the producers to actually help them make more informed decisions. So drones have I think they're going to be an important tool in our toolboxes in managing and making informed decisions for farmers and producers. We hear about drones are going to be made for deliveries. These larger drones that are more than 55 pounds, they actually are fall under another set of regulations, and again, another set of pilot regulations. So the heavier the drones, the more regulations there are out there. But we're again to see them make a lot of more appearances in the rural areas for agriculture. So if you have any questions or would like more information about drones, there's my contact information there. I'll be glad to share it with you. We're excited to be able to present this information to our students and to do outreach with our farmers and ranchers. And again, we're partnering with the Walkway Foundation. We're hoping to train students to be interns so they can actually do custom mapping for farmers down the road. So that's all I have for my presentation, Trent.
All right, thank you, Ed. Are there any questions out there? If not, I have one about, Ed, you're also doing this as part of the Ag Veterans Project. Is that correct, as far as teaching that? With Ag Veterans is another partnership we have with Apex Applied Technology and the U of A, where getting veterans introduced to ag, and I know drone technology is one of that. There's a lot of interest in it all over the board, I see. So, and you're working on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes more sense to have people out there involved in actually seeing it. And we're hoping we're bringing the Walkway Foundation. They're going to bring 3 of their drones into our class in about 2 weeks. We're allowed to have our students meet outside. We have a class about 24 students. So there'll be 4 of us flying different drones, introducing to them, showing them how it works. And, we want to get these students engaged and excited about this technology. It's being used in agriculture out there. And we think there's some great opportunities for students and for farmers that want to use that technology.
Thanks for a great presentation, Ed.
Sorry for the trying to get hooked up there.
Oh, yeah, that's all right. And when we'll be able to post this online, and I'll be able to cut all that out so that people don't have to sit through it.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah, but the fantastic presentation. I did have a question about using the images collected through drones to assess crop health or plant health. I just found that very interesting, and I bet it's some sort of software, but was wondering what kind of what the software might be actually using from the images to determine plant health, if it's like a greening index kind of thing.
That's a great, if I brought back up one of the images from the Walkway Foundation. Let me see if I can get back in there and find that link if I can. Let's see.
I know some of them use vegetative index type.
Yeah, there's a LiDAR. There's one on there that does show that. I don't have that right now. I was going to try to bring that up and show you one of those links there. There's different, the drones we're using come with their own sensors, and it's RGB, but there's some that you can specialize, the ones that have the infrared. That would be a great one, probably like for livestock producers then, because you're looking to and there was one, I saw a study from Kansas State where they were able to identify cattle from other livestock or other animal species out on a range area. So for example, somebody flying drone, they want to look for the mother cows and not confuse them with deer. So there were some different heat signatures that they were actually looking at. And they were also looking at cows that were in heat, for example, that they have a different heat signature. Oh. So the thermal imaging on the drone could actually pick that up. And again, this mapping software would just give us the colors, but the red again would tell us that there's a problem. And when we were looking at this farmer's property in Marana, we could see where he was irrigating, and we see the lights and the greens and the reds. And now that would just give us an area that, okay, now we found something. Now we'd have to go and investigate what it is. Could it be that there's over flooding in that area and there's not enough plant growth, the plants are stressed or what? But at least what this tells us, it just gives us an indicator that some symptoms that they needed to press further to see what it is.
Yeah, I'd go back to some of what Gilbert was looking at and some of those programs he has available, as well as what Alexandra showed too, is there's a lot of applications there, to scouting a fence line, to looking at a water line, looking for leaks, instead of going out trying to find all those cattle. Even, I know there's even getting to where they have a radio ear tag, so the drones can pick up on the ear tag of a particular animal and check on it if they haven't seen it in a while or something. There's a lot of really interesting, fascinating stuff going on here.
And it might be more for a cooperative, a group where if you had a group of farmers that are going in, rather than, each one looking like investing in it, as a cooperative, they group and, then having somebody who's contracted come in and do it for them, it makes more sense, kind of like a leasing option. Unless the individual says, yeah, we're going to be able to make use of it.
Yeah,
Right.
that was another question I had quickly about how different producers or groups of producers that could access this kind of service. So there are contractors in Southern Arizona or in Arizona that are providing drone services?
Yeah, like the Walkaway Foundation is a group that I would point them towards, because they have a set of about 8 different pilots, and they're out there flying right now. And again, what Don wants to do, he's a farmer, actually from the Washington State area, but he's down here. And of course, what he does because of his job as a Major League Baseball coach. And, he's all about getting the technology for the small farmers and integrating it and knowing what the benefits of drone operations are. And I've had a chance to talk with Don and visit with him about, what his goals are on doing with it. And again, and his foundation's been really helpful. They want, again, help our students maybe find employment in that area, to help farmers learn more about that technology. So it's we're trying to push that information out there.
Thank you.
Well, we've gone quite a bit. It's been good sessions, a lot of good information, and I appreciate everybody for hanging on. And look for more information on our follow-up, our next one. We can end the recording now, I believe. And I would say have a great afternoon and great weekend for everybody. And again, thank you for attending, and thank you for sharing all the great information that everybody had.